Welcome. Today we are going to look at History Paper 1, Section A, 25 marks. Give one reason why the Mijikenda community migrated from their settlement on Shungwaya during the pre-colonial period. Attacks by Oromo, increase in population. State 2 ways in which the Akampa interacted with the Agikuyu in the pre-colonial period. Through trade, through warfare, intermarriage. Question 3. State 2 functions of the Council of Elders among the Somali. 1. Maintenance of law and order. 2. Settlement of disputes. 3. Presided over religious ceremonies. Question 4. Name one Agikuyu leader who resisted the British. 1. Gatere Tetu, Nyeri. Waiyaki Wahiga, Dagoretti, Nairobi. Question 5. Give 2 consequences of rural-urban migration among the Africans during the colonial period. 1. While most of the urbanized Africans retained their cultural identities, a few lost their ethnic roots. The integration of people of different backgrounds in the urban areas aroused political consciousness among the Africans. 3. Some of the urbanized Africans were converted to Islam and Christianity. Question 6. Give 2 ways in which the trade union movement contributed to the nationalist struggle in Kenya. 1. Expressed the African grievances to the colonial government since African political parties were banned. 2. Created an awareness among the Africans about their rights. 3. Created an avenue through which the Africans could air their grievances. 4. The leaders got support from the international community for the nationalist cause. Question 7. State the main reasons why the African elected members of the LegCo rejected the Layton and the Lennox-Baird proposals. They wanted elections to be based on universal suffrage. Question 8. Identify 3 types of conflicts. Personal conflicts, national conflicts, international conflicts. Question 9. Identify 2 features of the Kenyan Constitution. Number 1. It provides for separation of powers in the government. 2. Provides for the rule of law. 3. Provides for respect for and protection of individual human rights and freedoms. Question 10. Define the Bill of Rights. It refers to the section of the Constitution that contains the rights and freedoms of the individual citizen. Question 11. State 2 types of parliamentary committees in Kenya. 1. Committee of the Whole House. 2. Select committees. Question 12. State 2 functions of the Secretary to the Cabinet. 1. Prepares the agenda for the Cabinet meetings. 2. Takes minutes during the Cabinet discussions. 3. Oversees the implementation of the Cabinet decisions in his or her capacity as the head of the civil service. Question 13. State 2 functions of the civil servants in Kenya. 1. Maintain law and order. 2. Implement government policies. 3. Account for government revenue. 4. Offer direct services to the people. For example, doctors and teachers. Question 14. State the main reason why general elections were held in 1983. To rid the government of disloyal elements. Question 15. Name the tax levied on local produce by local authorities. Cess tax. Section B, 45 marks. Question 16A. State 5 reasons for the migration of the Highlands Nilotes into Kenya by 1800 AD. 1. They were searching for pasture for their livestock. 2. Increase in population led to the sustained pressure for expansion. 3. Natural calamities such as drought, famine, and diseases led to migration. 4. International conflicts which led to the instability forced them to migrate. 5. Attacks by neighboring communities led to migration to safer areas. 6. Some people migrated for adventure and the desire for loot and plunder. Question 16b. Describe the political organization of the Nandi during the pre-colonial period. The Nandi political system was based on autonomous political units known as the Pororiek, that is singular Pororiet. 2. Each Pororiet was made up of several clans. 3. Each Pororiet was under the influence of Council of Elders whose duty was to maintain law and order. 4. The Council of Elders settles disputes relating to welfare, land and cattle or crime. Their decisions could not be challenged for they were final. 5. The Council of Elders made major decisions affecting the community. 6. Each Pororiet was further subdivided into smaller political units known as Kokwet. A Kokwet was headed by a lesser Council of Elders, the Kokwo. 7. The Kokwo dealt minor disputes such as conflicts over grazing grounds. 8. During the first half of 19th century, the Nandi adopted the institution of the Okoyot. 9. The institution of the Okoyot brought unity among the Nandi. The Okoyot was looked upon for advice on matters pertaining to welfare, circumcision, sacrifice, and the transfer of power from one age group to the next. 10. The Okoyot ruled by consensus. 11. The Nandi had a court of law, the Kokwetap, Pororiet, which administers justice. It was advised by a section of lawyers, the Kiruogik. 17a. Name 3 areas in the Rift Valley where there were large concentrations of white settlers. 1. Kericho, 2. Nakuru, Naivasha, Njoro, Kitale, Nyahururu, Nyandarua. 17b. Explain the methods used by the colonial government to ensure Africans in Kenya provided labor to the settlers. Colonial authorities used force to ensure that Africans provided labor. The use of forced labor was particularly evident in the settler farms where Africans grew crops and kept animals for Europeans. 2. The colonial authorities established crowded reserves for the Africans. This forced many Africans to look for the employment in the European farms or as a domestic servant. 3. The colonial authorities alienated African land and gave it to European settlers. This led to landlessness among the Africans. Landless Africans were consequently compelled by the necessity to look for employment. 4. The colonial authorities also made sure that the Africans were left with land that was not fertile. They could not survive on such land. 5. That to ensure that the Africans provided labor to the Europeans, the colonial authorities made it mandatory for the Africans to pay taxes. This forced Africans to work in European farms in order to earn the money. 6. The colonial authorities trained a few Africans for clerical jobs in the civil service. Those trained for such jobs felt privileged and so went to work. 18a. State 3 reasons why the colonial government encouraged European farmers to settle in Kenya. 1. They wanted to make Kenya a white man's country by encouraging white settlers to form the backbone of the economy. 2. The colonial government hoped that the settlers would finance administration expenses of the colony without involving the British taxpayers. 3. The settler economic activities would help the colonial government pay for the construction costs of the railway and maintain it. 4. The settlers were expected to produce raw materials for the British industries. 5. The colonial government wanted to use the settlers to control Asian influence in Kenya. 6. The Kenyan highlands were suitable for European settlement in terms of climate and soils. 18b. Explain 6 problems which the European settlers in Kenya faced during the colonial period. 1. Lack of adequate labor to work in the settlers' farms. 2. Competition for the occupation of the White Highlands by the Asian community. 3. Scarcity of funds to facilitate plantation farming activities by the whiteless settlers. 4. Animal diseases whose cure had not been discovered killed their livestock. 5. Lack of livestock breeds that were economically viable and resistant to the tropical conditions. Crossbreeding to come up with the right breed took long and was also an expensive undertaking. 6. Variations in climate affected the health of the white settlers. 7. Marketing problems since most of their market was external. 8. Lack of experience in farming sometimes led to the great losses. 9. Tropical diseases. 10. Inadequate transport facilities. 11. Failure for the colonial government to grant them political concessions. 19a. Identify 3 challenges African nationalists experienced in Kenya between 1939 and 1963. 1. During the Second World War, Britain was more concerned with winning war than the colonial political issues. 2. Africans were also actively involved in the war, especially as soldiers. 3. Countrywide political organizations were banned after the end of the Second World War and during the state of emergency period. 4. During the state of emergency, nationalist leaders e.g. Jomo Kenyatta, Paul Ngei, and Achieng' Oneko were detained. 5. The movement of African nationalist leader was restricted. 6. Ethnic differences hindered unity of purpose in the independence movements. 7. The colonial government was heavily involved in propaganda against the nationalists. 8. Nationalists lack adequate finances and other resources. 19b. Explain 6 achievements of the African elected members of parliament, that is LEGCO, in the struggle for independence up to 1963. 1. The elected members of the LEGCO were Ronald Gala Coast, James Muimi of Ukambani, Bernard Mate of Central, Tom Mboya of Nairobi, Daniel Arap Moi, Rift Valley, Gingodinga Nyanza, Lawrence Ogunda South Nyanza, Masinde Muliro North Nyanza. They formed the African Elected Members Organization IMO in 1957. It was a political pressure group. 2. IMO demands led to the increase of African elected members from 8 to 14 in the LEGCO. 3. Through the IMO, a second African, Mumba Amaleba, became a member of the Council of Ministers. 4. A special election led to the nomination of the 4 Africans to the LEGCO. The new members were not constituency representatives. 4. AEMO campaigns led to the settling of the commission, which reviewed and recommended the abolition of racist regulations. One of the effects of this was the opening up of the White Highlands to Africans. 6. The AEMO also struggled for the release of Jomo Kenyatta and other imprisoned or detained nationalists. 7. Through the IMO, the nationalist cause for independence was widely accepted. 8. IMO members also gained international support for freedom. Tom Mboya, for example, gained the backing of Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah. 9. IMO members contributed to the formation of KANU and KADU. The former led Kenya to independence. 10. IMO members demanded for the Constitutional Conference to discuss Kenya's independence. The first Lancaster House Conference in 1960 made preliminary preparations for the independence of Kenya. The resulting constitution gave the Africans a measure of control in the LEGCO. 11. The second Lancaster House Conference in 1962 was another IMO success. It came up with a constitution for independent Kenya. Freedom was attained on 12th December 1963. Section C, 30 marks. Answer any 2 questions. 20A. State 3 democratic entitlements of a Kenyan citizen. 1. Right to vote. 2. Right to contest for electoral seats. 3. Right to join trade unions or professional organizations. 4. Right to get government services. 20B. Discuss the civic responsibilities of a Kenyan citizen. 1. To allow other people space to exercise their rights and freedoms. 2. To pay taxes to enable the government to provide services to the people. 3. To participate in the democratic process by voting during elections. 4. To participate in community activities for the improvement of the welfare of people. 5. To appreciate gender differences and desist from discriminating against other members of the society on the basis of gender. 6. To practice good health practices that protect the lives of others. 7. To assist the government in ensuring that the rule of the law is promoted. 8. To conserve the environment by keeping it pollution-free for own benefit and posterity. 9. To obey the laws of the land for the promotion of law and order in the society. 10. To conserve the environment by keeping it pollution-free for own benefit and posterity. 21A. Explain 5 principles of democracy. 1. Participation of citizens in government through voting or being voted for. 2. Existence of an open and accountable media. 3. Upholding the rights and freedoms of individuals, for example, freedom of speech, of expression, or freedom of worship. 4. Economic empowerment of the citizens. A democracy allows citizens to create and control own wealth. 5. Equality of all before the law. All citizens are bound by the same law. 6. Participation of citizens in a free and fair elections. 21B. Discuss the merits of democracy. 1. The interests of the citizens are paramount. The elected leaders cannot ignore the people since they owe their positions to them. 2. It fosters unity among citizens of a country as all people are accorded equal treatment before the law regardless of color, gender, political or religious affiliations. 3. It promotes good governance as the leaders are answerable to the people and can be removed from power during elections. 4. It promotes good relations between the rulers and citizens in that the leaders are the people's representative in government. 5. Democracy advocates for respect of other people's rights. This in turn promotes peace and stability within a country. 6. It promotes international harmony. 7. It enhances patriotism in the country. 22A. State 3 sources of revenue for local authorities in Kenya. 1. Grants from the central government. 2. Rents collected from council houses. 3. Loans from individuals and international companies. 4. Fines levied by law offenders. 5. License fees. 6. Charges on services provided by local authorities, for example, mortuary fee. 22B. Discuss the problems facing local authorities in Kenya today. 1. Local authorities lack autonomy. They are controlled by the Minister for Local Government, therefore by the central government. 2. Local authorities lack adequate finances to carry out their operations. They depend largely on grants and loans, which are sometimes not forthcoming, hence non-payment of salaries. 3. Some local authorities are either too large or too small to operate. That is, lack of adequate personnel or operational bases, respectively. 4. Local authorities experience frequent quarrels between councillors, and this interferes with performance. 5. They lack adequate skilled manpower, that is labor, due to lack of finances and job security as well. 6. Over-establishment. Some local authorities have too many workers, and this compromises efficiency and drains resources. 7. They lack appropriate administrative and financial machinery to collect revenue owed to them by individuals and organizations. 8. There is misuse or mismanagement and misappropriation of finances by few individuals. Did you understand? Kindly let me know in the comment section below, and also let me know what video you want I do tomorrow. Thanks a lot for subscribing and listening to me. God bless you.